This TikToker crowned himself king of Switzerland, built a fake military, started seizing, claiming, and collecting land, and somehow local governments still can't fully stop him. So this is definitely one of the more bizarre stories I've covered here in a while. Because apparently Switzerland kind of has a king now, at least a self-proclaimed king, and he's doing everything in his power to gain as much power through, you know, a whole bunch of weird legal loopholes. But no, this isn't some like random ceremonial mascot or random billionaire. No, this is a actual guy who crowned himself king, built an empire, created his own military faction, minted his own currency, and legally claimed over 100,000 square meters of Swiss land. So that is actually a whole lot of land. And the wildest part of all this is somehow this is technically real. So meet Jonas Laumener, a 31-year-old Swiss IT specialist who decided normal hobbies, no, they were beyond him. That's way too boring. Instead, he became the Royal Highness and I guess the new king of Switzerland. Fascinating LARP. But the LARP has legs. It's kind of real. And that's where it gets very bizarre because the dude has a crown, a coronation ceremony, an imperial flag, a fake currency, an armored vehicle, military regiments, an empire legion, a palace, and an official website explaining to, I guess, everyone in all seriousness that he's a real thing. Bro essentially gave a NATO briefing on why he's a real king. And now Swiss authorities are actually getting nervous about him because underneath all of the LARPing and cosplaying here, the guy essentially found a completely legal loophole of Swiss property law that let him slowly acquire abandoned and ownerless land across the country for essentially free, roads included. So now there are actual Swiss neighborhoods where residents wake up every morning and technically drive across this dude's kingdom, land that's essentially owned by him. So we have a self-proclaimed monarch with an imperial army section on his website. And yeah, that's actually a real sentence. I can't believe I'm talking about this, honestly. It's safe to say the internet always has a way of surprising me, but apparently you can join this legion. So if you click the join section, and I'm not promoting this whatsoever, it takes you to a contact form with a pretty interesting "we need you" sign. Okay. And yeah, before you think this is some like harmless internet joke, local governments are trying to change laws because of this guy. So the story starts off honestly in the most absurd way possible. So according to multiple reports, Jonas, he was born in Switzerland in 1994 to a Swiss father and a Moroccan mother. He worked in automation and industrial IT, served in the military for a few years, and by all accounts, he lived a pretty normal life. Then on his 20th birthday, his father gave him a small piece of land. That's it. That's the origin story. Most people get like a watch or some sort of other family heirloom. But this guy, he received a small plot of land, and I guess that just activated some sort of hidden emperor gene in this guy, because after getting that property, Jonas discovered something incredibly important buried inside of the Swiss property law. Because apparently under Article 658 of the Swiss Civil Code, ownerless land can legally be claimed, not stolen, claimed. So if nobody owns it, a person can technically register ownership through legal channels. And Jonas realized almost nobody else was taking advantage of this. So while normal people were spending their free time watching Netflix, this guy was apparently combing through land registries like it was some medieval treasure hunt. Honestly, I think we just found the textbook definition of weaponized autism, because bro was absolutely scheming here. And apparently it worked, because over time, he claimed more and more land across Switzerland. Forest, roads, fields, industrial plots, random abandoned parcels, and eventually building what he calls now the Laumener Empire. The thing that really, I guess, surprises me of all this is, are there no property taxes in Switzerland? Because to me, this sounds like a very expensive annual bill. 0.1 to 0.3% of the property's assessed value. Okay, so I mean, that's relatively low, at least for US standards. But still, I mean, if he has 100,000 square meters of land, you would assume that wouldn't be the cheapest bill. And before the dude starts having people move onto his land, he starts charging them taxes so he can pay his own property tax. Who knows? Regardless, I guess at some point, once he collected enough land, he realized, you know what, this land needs a monarchy. So in 2019, at the age of 24, he rented a Niedeg church in Bern and held himself an actual ceremony. So he showed up in full royal clothing with a jewel-covered crown, while a choir sang in the background like it was like the ending of some sort of fantasy movie. And I guess just like that, he became king of his own lands. And according to reports, many of the attendees were either friends or hired actors, which somehow makes all this even more entertaining. Because imagine getting a gig request that's just like, hey man, can you show up to me crowning myself as king for my land? Thank you. And no, this wasn't done ironically either. This would be an amazing bit if it was a bit, but I guess he's very dedicated to the bit, so much so that it's not even a bit anymore. Because I guess Jonas commits to the bit with so much intensity that you could pretty much call it a supervillain origin story. Because once you discover his website, things just get crazier. Because at first, you think this is just some eccentric rich guy doing some performance art, but then you open the official King of Switzerland website and realize, oh wow, this guy has created an entire cinematic universe around himself. I am talking full lore. I mean, there are sections of the Empire Legion, the Imperial Bank, the Royal House, the Law and Constitution. There's an imperial flag, an imperial anthem, citizenship applications, military patches, royal titles, and pages written with the seriousness of a government archive. And the funniest part is the tone here, because every paragraph sounds like it was written by someone trying to explain the backstory of a fictional European nation in a grand strategy game. Like, you could not tell me this guy doesn't have thousands of hours on Age of Empires. Because at one point the site literally says, Jonas Larwener lives between two worlds, everyday practicality and symbolic kingship. Whatever that means. Like, just imagine being his coworker at this IT office he worked at. Oh, what happened to Jonas? Oh, yeah, he became a king. Oh. Okay. But somehow it gets even more dramatic from there, because it then goes on to describe how he systematically started acquiring plots of land, and he described the whole thing as his campaign. And his campaign, I guess, was just acquiring a bunch of forests, roads, and abandoned plots as the foundation for his land empire. And the site also insists that he's not trying to overthrow Switzerland, and he says he respects democracy and Swiss law. In fact, there is this like wholesome section where he starts talking about Switzerland's mountains, lakes, forests, and democratic traditions, like he's filming some sort of like tourism commercial. But then, I guess 2 paragraphs later, he's suddenly like Field Marshal of the Empire Legion and Admiral of the Empire Fleet. Like, what? And then let's see, that was also a Grandmaster of the Order of Merit. Hold on, what? This man's empire is mostly roads and random forests. Like, why do you need an admiral? But then, of course, we get to the military section, because that's where things get even more